Welcome back to Banging the Can, the Houston sports show that does not apologize for championship rings and tings, presented by Bolen Media. I am your host, Ross Bolen, and somehow, some way, the Texans did it again. They did it again. They had a fourth quarter lead for the second week in a row against one of the best teams in football. This time, the Kansas City Chiefs. And they managed to choke it away in oh-so-Texans-y fashion, finally losing in overtime after a Davis Mills fumble that was almost Rosencopter-esque, but unworthy of any such nickname. Now, hanging with the Cowboys and Chiefs in back-to-back weeks might seem like reason for optimism, especially considering the Texans are short several key players, including running back Dameon Pierce and cornerback Derek Stingley Jr., both of whom are out for the season with injuries. But here's the problem. This is one of those nothing to lose, so fuck it type situations for all of our players. There are no stakes for the Texans. There's no pressure for really any of our players outside of the quarterback position. And the season has been such an utter and total disaster as we sit at a league worst 1-12-1 that it's pretty difficult to judge anything this team does objectively. I guess we should credit Lovie Smith for getting this kind of effort out of the guys, particularly in back-to-back weeks, but I don't know. It feels like a pretty easy speech to give. We've got nothing to lose. Nobody expects you to win this game, so go out there and shit on their heads. See, I just crushed that speech, and I've never coached a football game in my life. You see my point. It's hard to know what is what with this fucking team right now. These back-to-back losses after hanging with teams with good records have both been so incredibly fucking stupid that it almost feels like we were tanking in the end. Like the end of both games did feel like we were losing on purpose, both in the Cowboys game and in the Chiefs game, which, you know, would make sense, but we all know that's not the case. We're just trash. I mean, you can try to talk yourself into it. Oh, no, they threw both of these games so that we can secure the number one pick. But do you really believe that, like, deep in your heart? I don't think you do. I understand trying to get yourself to believe that because it takes away from some of the depressing nature of being a Texans fan right now and having to watch one of the worst teams probably in the history of the league. One win it's almost tough. Look, they say any given Sunday, you know what I mean? There's regularly, if you bet on the NFL, you're aware of how often upsets occur. To win one game through 14 games is actually fairly challenging in the NFL. There are so many dog shit teams year in and year out. To win one game through 14 weeks is legitimately almost impressive in some ways. We're just not good. The Chiefs, meanwhile, are now 11-3 and once again AFC West champions after Sunday's overtime win. And frankly, they probably had a hard time getting up for this game, right? The Cowboys fell to the Jaguars on Sunday, so they might just be the frauds we all expected them to be. But the Chiefs, by my read, just had a difficult time locking in against a one-win franchise. That is my explanation for the last 2 weeks of Texans teases. The biggest difference between the Cowboys and Chiefs game is that I didn't allow myself even for a second to get excited about potentially beating the Chiefs or respect the fourth quarter lead that we had or let my emotions get a hold of me in any way, shape, or form during regular time or overtime. I've learned my lesson too many times to fall for that shit 2 weeks in a row. There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me, you can't get fooled again. In positive news, the Houston Astros have signed the man known as Uncle Mike to a one-year deal, further bolstering our offense. Outfielder, designated hitter, and veteran leader Michael Brantley, who served as sort of like a de facto coach during the 2022 World Series run due to injury, has signed a one-year, $12 million deal with an additional $4 million possible through incentives. So he could make $16 million next year. This will be his 5th year in Houston. He's a fan favorite. And as I said, he spent the majority of his 4th year hurt. He only played in 64 games before injuring his shoulder, obviously not playing in the postseason at all, which felt like going into the postseason, it would be devastating. It was one of the conversations, like, is Uncle Mike going to make it back in time? Will Brantley be healthy in time for the postseason? And when he wasn't, it was like, oh, shit. And it ended up, not mattering at all. It felt like it was going to be devastating until it completely wasn't. Since 2017, this is crazy. It's a crazy stat. And it's the thing that gets me the most excited about the Uncle Mike signing outside of the obvious veteran leadership that we maintain. Only 3 players, count them, 1, 2, 3 players have posted a batting average better than Michael Brantley's 306 average since 2017. Which is, hold on, I'm checking my notes. Yes, that is very good for the squad. 306 average. Only 3 guys with a better batting average since 2017 than Uncle Mike. And he could end up splitting time between left field and designated hitter with Jordan, but he might just be a designated hitter. We don't know. We don't know exactly how they're going to use him yet. But what we do know is our batting lineup is fucking insane. From top to bottom, look at this. Altuve, Brantley, Bregman, Alvarez, Abreu, Tucker, Pena, McCormick, and Maldonado. Obviously, our 8 and 9 spots are not exactly hitters that are going to strike fear into the heart of pitchers. But the other 7, this hasn't been the most insane offseason in Astros history by any means, but it could prove to be one of the most successful if the pitching staff, sans Verlander, can perform anywhere near last year's level. Because the offense has undoubtedly been amped the fuck up even further. The 1 through 7 slots in our batting order are a fucking nightmare, no matter who is on the bump against these boys. So while the Texans and Rockets maintain the worst records in their respective leagues, I've said it before and I'll say it again. God bless the Houston Astros. And welcome back, Uncle Mike. I would still like to see Yuli Gurriel come back, as I know basically everyone in H-Town would. But if there's one other thing about the Brantley signing that occurs to me, it's that it makes it feel even less likely that we bring back Gurriel. Because I think everybody was kind of expecting, he could be a DH. We need him for the playoffs. Well, now we got Uncle Mike, who's kind of feeling like he'll fill that spot or at least split the DH with Jordan and switching in left field or whatever. I mean, I don't know. Alvarez obviously improved in the outfield last season, and Uncle Mike is not exactly a young man anymore. So you have to imagine it's possible Jordan could spend more of that time in the outfield and Uncle Mike more of that time in DH. We're just going to have to wait and see. In Rockets news, look, the team has continued to look more and more exciting as they run and gun more often. And we're young. We know we're developing. We've got at least 4 guys that we know we've got some degree of faith in to potentially be all-star caliber players. You've got Scoot, you got Jalen Green, you got Şengün, you got Jabari Smith Jr., and they're all sort of doing what we, like in the last few weeks especially, November into December, they've been doing more and more of what I would like to see. Playing more exciting, fast-paced, fucking run and gun, dunking the shit out of the ball basketball. That's what we want, right? So we're not winning a lot of games. I don't really want to win a lot of games. I'm not trying to tank for last place necessarily. Because, we've seen what that... You still only have a 14% chance of getting the number 1 pick if you end up in last place. I think we're currently, as I speak, tied with the San Antonio Spurs for the worst record in the league, which even saying it out loud is kind of shocking. The Spurs. I just things haven't gone great for us since we lost James Harden. Obviously, we entered a full-blown rebuild as a result of Harden, his antics, the Chris Paul trade, having Russell Westbrook. But the Spurs have been in an absolutely fucking terrible place since what's-his-name went to Canada, whose name is slipping my mind at the moment for some reason. What the hell was his name? Kawhi Leonard. He's been hurt a lot. Give me a break. But the Spurs have basically been in a free fall since then. And now they're right there with us as the worst record in the NBA since Kawhi left. Pretty much did the exact same thing to the Spurs that Harden did to the Rockets, kind of gutted us on the way out. I don't like seeing the Spurs in a position to end up with a lottery pick. It's not good. Pop terrifies me. And the Spurs front office has been fairly savvy for a fairly fucking long time. One of the few front offices in the NBA that, especially back in the Daryl Morey area of the Rockets, was competitive with us on a development level where they were always in the playoffs. Never missed the playoffs. Just like the Rockets during the Morey era. And now they're with us at the bottom of the barrel. Who knows what's going to happen? Who knows? But in other Rockets news, Jabari Smith Jr. been playing great. Just signed a deal with Adidas. Jabari Smith Jr. looking significant. As I speak to the team in general, looking better the past few weeks, he's been a huge part of that. Finally kind of getting his sea legs, if you will, in the NBA. And he just signed a huge deal with Adidas. Continuing a history of Rockets stars rocking with three stripes, including James Harden, most famously, but also Jalen Green, and now Jabari Smith Jr. A lot of Adidas guys in our recent history on the Rockets. So, yeah, we'll have to see what his shoe looks like. I don't know how I feel about the name Bari, by the way. People are just throwing that out there as his nickname. I'm not sure I dig it. Maybe not force it. Just wait and see what happens as far as a nickname for the kid goes, huh? But he's been great. Been fun to watch. And that's really, if you're a Rockets fan right now, all you can ask for is that the team play well enough for it to be entertaining for you to watch, right? That's what we want. While also finding a way to lose as many games as possible so that we can get as best a pick as we can, because we are not there yet. And there's a shockingly slim gap between us and like the top of the division right now. Just got to be careful. That's all I'm saying. I appreciate y'all watching and listening. Every episode of Banging the Can, if you did not know, is available on youtube.com/@bangingthecan. Of course, we're on all audio platforms as well. And it would mean a lot to me if you would share our show with the other Houston sports fans in your life this holiday season, with friends and family. This is the most unapologetic Houston sports show in existence and will continue to be just that going into 2023. Check out my media startup, Bolen Media, at bolenmedia.com. My comedy show, The Ross Bolen Podcast, available wherever you absorb Banging the Can. Follow us on TikTok at Banging the Can as well. That's Twitter and Instagram at Banging the Can. Bolen Media, my small media business here, run out of Austin, Texas, also has an F1 show. If you are an F1 fan, the Formula Bone F1 show is available wherever you watch or listen to Banging the Can. Formula Bone, that's Formula 1 with a B in front of the 1. Named after its host, Jared Borislow, a.k.a. J-Bone, who is my co-host on the Ross Bolen podcast, if you're wondering what the connection is. So check out Formula Bone F1 show if you are an F1 fan, also brought to you by, presented by Bolen Media. I am Ross Bolen. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at WRBolen. My first name is William, if you're like, what's with the W? William Ross Bolen. That's WR Bolen on Twitter and Instagram. I will be back soon. Until next time, H-Town, stay down.